In the past, siloed departmental applications and technologies have sprung up across enterprises. The result? Chaotic, disconnected IT landscapes. This piecemeal approach makes it impossible to respond to changing market conditions and customer demands, let alone stay ahead of the competition in this dynamic, fast-paced business climate. Sounds familiar? It's time to get future-proof. SAP Business Technology Platform, a unified cloud platform that delivers integrated technologies and solutions that work together, allowing businesses to become more nimble, adaptable, and responsive. It includes everything your business needs in 4 pillars on one unified platform to unlock data and processes across business functions. The Data and Analytics pillar consists of technologies that help you capture, manage, and govern your data to drive better business outcomes. Analyze all that data to accelerate insights and transform it into the answers you need. Extended planning and analytics help you bring your people and plans together to increase agility and performance, no matter what events unfold. And you will drive agile decisions with planning and analysis combined in one solution. The Application Development and Automation pillar empowers you to build apps faster with low-code and code-first solutions to meet business needs head-on. Automate and improve business processes and workflows to enhance business efficiency. SAP's integration solutions enable connected business processes across the enterprise. Seamlessly integrate on-premise and cloud-based applications, processes, services, events, and data to accelerate innovation and response time to changing business needs. Finally, the artificial intelligence capabilities of SAP Business Technology Platform allow you to infuse AI into your business applications to help your business run smarter. Analyze with intelligence and automate with speed while managing your AI use cases to run responsibly with transparency and compliance. The technologies of SAP Business Technology Platform have an intrinsic understanding of the data and process in your existing SAP applications via business-centric services, pre-built connectors, and pre-delivered business content. And SAP Business Technology Platform is open. It's your choice which cloud infrastructure you trust. No matter what business challenge you face today or tomorrow, SAP Business Technology Platform empowers you to meet it head-on. Future-proof your business, adapt quickly to change, and respond to new demands. All you need to succeed in your market on just one unified platform.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar, the first in our Unfiltered series. We're excited to get into the real-world applications of SAP Business Technology Platform with a focus on Aberdare Cables' Proof of Delivery Mobility solution. You'll see how SAP Build Apps can drive business transformation through low-code development, plus get expert insights from Yanni Kutsia from FU's Labs and Andrew Barrison from G3G on overcoming challenges and unlocking the full potential of SAP BTP. G3G and FU's Labs, both members of Group Elephant, collaborate closely to provide comprehensive end-to-end services to our SAP clients. With over 40 years of combined expertise, our partnership delivers innovative solutions tailored to meet the evolving needs of our clients. We'll also have a 15-minute Q&A at the end, so feel free to submit your questions in the Q&A box throughout the session. We'll do our best to answer them live, but if we don't get to yours, there will be another opportunity to ask your SAP BTP questions when we send out the webinar recording. Do kindly note that the session is being recorded, and by participating, you consent to being included in the recording. You'll also receive the presentation deck along with the recording for your perusal. So before we get started, we want to start off with a poll, and we want to know, what is your current experience with SAP Build Apps? So we'll be launching the poll in a few seconds, and you can reply to that with your answers. We'll just give everyone a few moments to give their answers. So the poll question to start off with is, what's your current experience with SAP Build Apps? Never used it but interested. Played around with it but still learning. I've used it for small projects, or I'm actively using it in business solutions. Let's just give everyone a few more seconds to answer. Perfect. Thank you so much. So Andrew, just before we hand over to you, just to let you know, the majority of our attendees today, they have never used SAP Build Apps, but they are interested. 18% have played around with it, but are still learning. And then we've got 7% each for used it for small projects or actively using it in business solutions. Thank you so much, everyone. Andrew, over to you.
Great, thanks, Amy. Good morning, everybody. All right, so I'm just going to start off with the agenda. So 3 things we're going to look at today. I'm just going to set the context initially around the business technology platform, just to hone in on the particular area that we're going to be focusing on today and give us the context around that. And then we really want to get practical. So with permission, we're going to talk through a real world scenario that we've implemented at a client of ours, a long-term client of ours. And as we do that, I really hope you'll be thinking about your own businesses, which of course may be in a very different industry, but you may have real world problems that you need to solve. So I just hope that this will make it a bit more tangible for you as we move through what they did at Aberdare. And the particular application that we built for them is called Sign for It. It's a proof of delivery application. And I'll be handing over at that point to Yanni Katsia, who, particularly for our more technical audience, will be going through some of the details associated with how that was implemented. Right, so to kick us off, many of you would have seen some sort of manifestation of this slide over the years, just sort of affectionately known as the hamburger slide. And essentially, this is the latest one, which has the core SAP solutions in the stack, with the business applications, if you like, in the semicircle on the top, with the core S/4HANA Cloud ERP in the middle. And then beneath that, you've got the business technology platform, which is essentially the innovation enabler across all those particular line of business applications. And then if we just drop down to get the context of what we're looking at today, around the blue box towards the bottom of the screen, we've got 4 areas. We've got app development and automation, data and analytics, the integration suite that some of you may have used already from a BTP standpoint. And then this is now all becoming underpinned by artificial intelligence and the dual co-pilot, which SAP has recently introduced. So the purpose of our discussion today is going to be around how we use build apps in the app development quadrant, if you like, of the business technology platform. All right, so let's talk through the use case that we're going to explore today, which was implemented at Aberdare Cables. Aberdare Cables is a leader in Africa around cabling, interconnected energy solutions. In South Africa, they're based in Gauteng and down in KZN, and produce a lot of the cables that Eskom use for the power grid. And one of the challenges that they had was around their distribution challenges from a process and compliance standpoint, particularly where they're shipping goods across the border. So that was the problem that we were presented with, and we'll explore it in a bit more detail in a moment. But ultimately, the solution that was implemented, yes, was an application which digitized the process, but also behind the scenes, of course, that whole process is integrated into their end-to-end ERP system. So we'll show you how that fitted together as well. So if we go into a bit more detail around the challenges they were experiencing. So first of all, it started with some audit findings around revenue recognition. What was typically happening, and I think a lot of companies that distribute goods actually do this, is they were in the warehouse when things were being shipped out, they were printing the delivery notes, posting the goods issue, and producing the invoice all at the same time, throwing it in the box and shipping it out to wherever it was going. And the challenge with this was particularly amplified when you had cross-border ground transportation time lags, particularly at month end. So for example, in that case, your revenue and your cost is not necessarily aligned and might be falling in the wrong month, according to the process they were using prior to that. So in that particular context, that leads us on to the third challenge, which was around that time lag influencing the payment terms. So they're producing the invoice, it could be 3 or 4 days actually before the transfer of ownership happens. and therefore the payment terms were incorrectly calculated, which then had a knock-on effect into payment disputes, lack of process auditability as well, where physical delivery notes were being signed by customers, and slowly but surely through the truck drivers, these were finding their way back, to home base, so to speak. So a very slow lag process, which was therefore causing a lot of ambiguity and creating an option where customers could say, well, I didn't actually receive those goods, or I didn't receive the quantity that that you confirmed. So at that point as well, we end up with lots of credit notes, particularly where goods may have been damaged en route and not the quantity shipped is not the quantity that's received. And of course, that difference could create an excuse for non-payment as well. And then finally, the other challenge associated with this was around sales commissions for salespeople, which was based on when the revenue and the margin was being recognized. And this potentially could end up being in the wrong month as well, particularly when it's over month end. Right, so the process that we implemented around proof of delivery, nothing overly complicated, but fully integrated into the ERP system. The first step was loading on the deliveries from SAP onto the driver's device, and in fact their distribution was outsourced, so the outsourced company makes use of this process and their application. Those get loaded on, and then in step two, and this was where we fundamentally changed the way they dealt with their accounting, where when the goods were put onto the truck, so to speak, they were moved to a stock and transit account rather than reflecting the cost of sales potentially in the wrong period. Step three, when the goods were delivered to the customer, the process was fully auditable, with the proof of delivery being captured along with a signature, and any damaged goods or over or under delivery was being captured with photographic evidence and so on. Right, so after this step, right there at the customer site, we would then have step four, where the proof of delivery is immediately updated in the SAP system, real time, along with any supporting documentation. So, the signature of the customer, any photographs, those are also attached against the delivery in SAP. And then what we perform is proof of delivery related billing. Right? So at that point, the customer has confirmed they've received the goods. At that point, we bill them, resulting in accurate payment terms, and the cost and revenue at that point being reflected accurately against the sales and cost of sales accounts. So you can see it's a fairly simple process, but it touches on quite a lot of areas where they were having some challenges, and sort of resolved them in a number of different ways. Right, so I'm going to hand over to Yanni now, who's going to take you through what was involved in building this application. Yanni?
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, great. So let me quickly share my screen here, and we can get going. There we go. Right, so we did go through a couple of steps, and we've tried this blueprint that we created in the end a couple of times, and this is what we're going to base the next couple of minutes on, to say, what is this kind of recommended blueprint we found works for implementing, solutions. And this one specifically focuses on BTP solutions, or let's say SAP cloud-based solutions. Right, so our blueprint is quite simple, and it is loosely based on the design thinking process as well. This is just a more practical view of this, with the focus on BTP. So you would need to define your solution, and this is also just to know what your business case is. You might not always know, and I'll get to that when we dig into that a little bit deeper. You then need to understand the flow of the data and the different components of your system. So that's the architecture. You need to choose the right tools, and might seem simple, but BTP is vast. So there are more than one thing that can solve your problem, probably. Then you go and build it. Once you have all of these things in place, that's only when you get to the building phase. And then once you've deployed this, you can monitor and enhance it going forward. So the first part we're looking into is the define part. Now, like I mentioned, this process is based on the design thinking part, or design thinking methodology. And the first part here, as part of the SAP App House network, we do a lot of these exploration workshops. Now, in Aberdare Cables situation, they knew what they wanted to solve. But we do see a lot of cases where some of our clients might have BTP credits, and they basically will need to find or want to find a way to utilize those. Or you might get a new KPI or an objective that you need to introduce AI into your business, and you're not exactly sure how to do that. And that's where we can do the Explore workshop, and our beautiful app house is available to do these workshops in, and that's what we found really powerful for users. So you get into a place where you define what you want, and once you know what you want to do, you go and unpack that further. All right. Looking at step 2, which is the architecture, the design and the flow of the data, the components in there. There are quite a number of things. Now, as you know, BTP is quite vast, and then SAP themselves took a turn in to say we're going cloud first. And with that, they introduced the Business Accelerator Hub, which documents all of their APIs that's available. So your first step would be, I have an S4 system. Maybe you are still on-prem, then there's another step involved. But if you are cloud-based and you have BTP, your first step would typically be, let me go to the Accelerator Hub to make sure that the data I want to get to is available. If not, you either need to request it, if you're public cloud, from SAP to open up or make the data endpoints available to you, or you can go and implement it yourself if you are on private cloud. But this would be a very good starting point, like, can I do what I want to do? This excludes the step that you did before this to say, isn't there anything out of the box already? There's so many Fiori apps out there. Maybe SAP already created an app for me to solve my problem. But if you know it's very specific to you, this is where you will start. Now, for our use case, for Aberdare Cables, we checked proof of delivery, which makes sense. And oh, lovely, look, there's a proof of delivery, and we need to know also the outbound delivery information. We need to get that to get the delivery document information. Fantastic. The APIs are there, and we are happy. The one little snag that we did not realize in the beginning was a snag is the fact that the proof of delivery service is a SOAP service. It's not OData. Now, without getting technical, it's just different ways in which you read data from an API. But Build Apps does not support direct link to SOAP services, only to OData. So our solution would have been delivered much quicker if that was an OData service as well. But I'll show you in a bit. We had to go and create a workaround for it, seeing that was a bit of a snag. There's another thing that you need to look into here as well. Look for the ones that are deprecated. Make sure that it is active. And then the last one is the modules which these APIs are in. Because another part of this application is using the attachments API, but that is not stock standard for all clients. So it's an additional module that they need to buy or utilize that they might not have, and that can also cause issues in your solution. So make sure that you know that the API is there, that it's deprecated, not going to be removed anytime soon. It will still be supported, and then also that the modules will be available at the client, or that you have the module that that you're looking for. All right, they're not only architecture-wise, but just tool-wise or component-wise, are the things that you're looking for available? For us, we had to go to the marketplace in the SAP Build Apps and look for something that can capture a signature, and great, there was a component that does that. We do not have to worry about creating our own thing, because this can affect what you do and what you decide on technology-wise in the end, and also the architecture and the flow of your data. So just make sure that look into the components. If there's something a little bit different that you're looking for, is it available? Can you use it? And then looking at the architecture, this is what we ended up with as an architecture. Now, if you look at the bottom here, we have your build app. It talks to you through the connectivity service, which is your SAP Cloud Connector, to your public or private instance. There's the flow. You get to the data, you read it, it comes back beautiful. Because of that tiny little snag, that is the fact that we can't directly call the SOAP services, we had to go and create this little sub-route here, a little Cloud Foundry application that reads the SOAP service for us, translates it into an OData service, and then gives that back to the Build app. And this is the pro code part of it. Now you're not in the low code, no code solution anymore. You need, some more development skills to do something like that. And I think that was quite evident in this case, that you needed some pro coding in here. Nonetheless, this was the architecture that we ended up with, and we knew what we wanted to build now. Part of this architecture step is also figuring out your flow, is the flow of information, the integration, the different systems, how do that connect up, and then also to make sure that you have a basic idea of what your interface might, or let's call it your user experience needs to be. In our case, we know that we knew we had to capture signatures and, images, so it's not necessarily, you need a tool and the right components and everything to do that, and make sure that you design for that in place. And when you put it down, you can see, oh, there are parts that's missing. So make sure that you do the, at least low fidelity wireframes in the beginning. Great, and now we move on to the tools, and tools become very interesting, especially if you're looking at BTP. Now this image is a little bit older because it has those 5 pillars at the bottom. I just put it down there because it gives you an overview of everything that's listed in those pillars. And these are still high level. If you dig deeper, you get stuff like document information extraction and things like that, which is subcategories of the services and the tools available in BTP. There is a lot, and you need to make sure that you understand it and have a good enough idea of the new things that they add in, and the capabilities of the stuff that's in there, so that you can decide what you need to do. So if we take our Aberdare Cables example, we knew that it would be an application where we need to read data, so get the delivery document information. We needed to make adjustments, modifications on the items in there. We needed to capture signatures and photos, and then send that back to our S4 system. So that's the basic flow. Now, let's say we decide, or we investigate automations, just BTP automations. You can probably do this and create a solution for that with a little form, but your user experience is not going to be good, because you will have to go and take pictures and then upload that, and take a picture of a signature and upload that, and then that form needs to post it to your S4 system. So can be done, your experience won't be great, and then people will probably not use it and adopt the solution. So maybe not the best thing. If we look at low code, build apps, that's pretty much what we decided on in the end. Definite, much faster turnaround time. A lot of the functionality is already, there's stuff already built for you. So for instance, authorizations is there. You tell it, you connect to BTP with this, through this destination or whatever it might be, and it will handle the logins for you, for instance, making it a little bit easier. It's also click and drag user interface, and then workflows that you can more easily build out. So in that sense, you do save time. There are some functional limitations that you need to keep in mind. For instance, you can't call the SOAP service directly, and that might be limiting. So in this case, we might have ended up with the same time frame if we went pro code, but that's debatable. Pro code, there are few to no limitations in terms of what you can do technology-wise, always within limitations, but you have a much broader scope that you can work with. It is bigger efforts because you need to reinvent or redo basically some of the components that's already done for you in Build Apps, but you have full control of it in the end. So that is also not a bad thing. And then we have AI, I love the hamburger image, because from the beginning, where they had AI as a separate pillar, I said it doesn't feel like it should be a separate pillar. It should be baked in as a foundation for any of the pillars that's in BTP, and that's exactly what it is. You can use AI to enhance what is there, but you should not necessarily, do it at this, or in this case, it wasn't an AI first solution. It shouldn't be a chat bot, and then you need to capture pictures, and it makes it a little bit difficult. It's not going to be easier. So AI is good. AI is fantastic and a very big trend at the moment, but because it's a hammer, you shouldn't go looking for nails, kind of the situation here. So that's the tools. And just to give you an understanding, that there's a lot in BTP that can solve your problem for you, but you should select the correct one, right? And now, after all of that, you can finally get into building this application. Right, I'm quickly going to pop over to Build Apps, which is here. Just to give you a quick feel of it. It is really an easy solution that you can use. This is the application sign for it that we built, and you'll see it in action a little bit later. But as you can see, you have your components here on the side that you can use. There are some logic flows that you can use here. For instance, take a photo. That's, I can click on the barcode picture there, and this will allow me to, I'll add the take a photo flow, and it will open up my camera for me so that I can take a picture of the barcode. So as you can see, there are different kinds of things that you can do here. There's a little spinner running there. I need to, once everything is loaded on this page, I need to hide the spinner. Those are the types of actions that you build into the flows here at the bottom. If we look at our add button here, if we enter a barcode or scan a barcode, we can say go and get this, and basically it will go and get that for you, and then set the variable, and then it will go to your backend. It will go and get the address information, create a record locally, and then add that to the list so that it would be shown here in the end. So it's a whole flow that you would go through when you add an item to this list, and that's kind of where you sit there. Variables you manage throughout here, so you can have global app variables and so forth, and then integrations is kind of where you end up first. Because you want to just show you here, for instance, before you can do integrations, you will tell it that you add SAP BTP authentication in here. And that's going to be the default login when you get into the application. It will authenticate, use that as the IDP to authenticate you. Once you've added that, you can go and you can add, through your very secure destinations and cloud connectors, you can go and add in this case, our public cloud instance here. So our S4 system sits here, and you can see the entities that is available, and you can go and add entities from there, additional entities that you might not have there already. So that just gives you an idea that it is quite easy to connect this to my system, get the data, and then on the user interface side, I will go and I'll be able to use, connect these values up to what is shown on the screen. It's a very click and drag, very interactive. Things are there, and there is a learning curve, but it's definitely much easier than going to write an application from scratch. One little snag we ran into might not affect you, but we wanted to do the public and private cloud ones together in one app and just make a logic switch, but you can't do that. You can only add the entities with a unique name, and these have the same names in the public and the private instances, so we needed to split it into two apps. Okay, and that's basically it. I just want to give you a feel of, it's quite easy to, get things running, get them up here, get them working. And just to mention, there is still some coding, a little bit of coding, or let's call it rather scripting, that happens inside of Build Apps. And that's what we use to create sign for it, as you can see. Right, back to the presentation. This is my backup slides, just in case it decided to not work. And now I'm basically at our last part, which is monitor and enhance for your end users. While I talk over this, I just want to play our sign for it solution, a little video that we captured just on the side so that you can see the way that it works. Monitoring is very important once you've deployed this application. You need to figure out if there's any issues or errors, or if a bug pops up. So application logs is quite important, and that's typically what a developer will use. And these things that I'm mentioning now, these come directly from SAP. That is inside BTP already. Activity logs to see histories, the history and usage of users. This is also good to enhance your application, see if people are using features or not using features. Also, talking to those users are very important to build on what you have here. For instance, GPS location might be important to build into this application going forward, or AI that does some document information extraction. So depending on what your needs are, do look into enhancing what you already have. Don't just leave it there. And then audit logs, that's also quite important to know which people had information or access to which information at any given point. And those things are just important to keep your application running smoothly, to make sure things aren't going down, to make sure that there aren't any security risks to it, and then, add to it, build on it as you go forward. Great. As you can see on the side here, that's our solution. You select the document, The client can capture their signature there. You can capture any faults that might have occurred in the delivery, and then it is submitted and you can continue to the next delivery. Right. With that, I am handing over back to Andrew.
Thanks, Yanni. So just to close off around this particular use case, and I think, as you can see, I mean, it's a very simple application in a sense, but it's actually had a powerful impact on this client's business in terms of some of the benefits they've achieved. So, touching on a few of them, of course, the revenue recognition and triggering the billing off the back of the proof of delivery ensures that we have our revenue recognition compliance. And also, due to the reduction in disputes and if you like, digitizing that process of the proof of delivery, the clients also see an accelerated cash flow with the real-time invoicing. So their days sales outstanding from creation of the sales order through to receiving of the cash has come down as well. And the natural implication of that is that your working capital improves. And then I think, the process transparency that they've had, and they have certain partners that they use where almost like trading customers, they're actually using the app now as well to even go through that process and work with them around receiving the deliveries and ensuring that the billing goes through without any process disputes or payment disputes. So it's really helped this business in a big way in a very short time as well. And I think a big part of that comes down to the fact that the customer has formally accepted that delivery. It's fully auditable and in a sense undisputed. So one example, I hope that just makes it a bit more tangible to you as you think about the various scenarios within your business.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrew. Thank you so much, Yanni. Those insights were really great to hear. Before we jump into the Q&A session with the both of you, we just have one more poll for everyone. So we would like to know, how do you see SAP Build Apps fitting into your business? So let me pop up that poll. I'll give everyone a few seconds to answer that, and then I'll share the results shortly. So the last poll for our session, how do you see SAP Build Apps fitting into your business? Rapid prototyping and innovation, building internal tools and automation, creating customer-facing applications. We're not too sure yet. I'm still exploring the possibilities. Let's give everyone a few more seconds just to answer, and I'll share these with you shortly. Still changing a little bit there. I'm going to end the poll. So just for a quick overview, the majority of our attendees, they are not too sure yet. They're exploring the possibilities. We then have around 6 attendees building internal tools and automation, and the rest creating customer-facing applications with rapid prototyping and innovation. Great. So we have received a few questions on our side. I would like to get started with a question from Philip Sutherland. Thank you so much for your question. This is directed to both of you. How is authentication managed? Similar to Fiori, where you need a full user license, is that required?
Okay. Sorry. All right. No, in this case, it's not really a user that is on the system necessarily. So you can just use BTP as kind of an identity provider if you want to create users on there. That is not a cost to something. It's just users and identifying them, and they can use the application. So it's a little bit different in that sense. I think that the one would, if they need Andrew, if they need to connect to the backend, and you need to make sure it's only that user, not a technical user connecting to the backend. There are some situations where they might need a user, so you know who they are connecting to your S4 system. So I think that's the one case where you find it. But if your application doesn't require, you knowing who this person is and that they have authorizations and things on their S4 system, then you don't need it. So it's a little bit case dependent.
Yes, and maybe just to add to that, I think depending on the scenario, you might be looking at indirect licensing as opposed to a user. So in the example that we went through, it was through a technical user and then indirect licensing because the specific user was being captured elsewhere.
Perfect. Thank you so much for those answers. We have another question just around Sign For It specifically. They want to know, how quickly did it take you to develop Sign For It?
I can take that one. So How long is a string? No, I'm kidding. So it was, in this case, it took us a little bit longer because of the SOAP snag there than we wish to, but it's definitely weeks and not months if you're looking at development. And if you look at a normal app development, you're talking about months a lot of times. So that in this case, it was definitely an accelerator using Build Apps for it. And we can recommend it, especially if you're looking at a very basic application when you read, modify, write, basically. Build apps are perfect for those kind of solutions.
Perfect. That sounds great.
Yes,
Thanks, Yanni. Sorry,
yeah,
Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, so just to say, I mean, in this app, essentially, as Yanni showed you, we're reading the delivery, so it's pretty straightforward, and then we update the proof of delivery, which again is just some attributes against the delivery, and then post back, documentation and so on. So fairly simple in terms of data transfer, but of course very powerful in terms of driving the subsequent process for billing that comes after that.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
And just a new question that popped up, and I can also answer that if you want.
Oh yes, that would be great. Thanks, Yanni.
Okay, so the question is that they're not on S4 yet, but they think that you can use BTP on ECC as well, and that is 100% correct. I always advocate to start using BTP immediately. Don't wait until you're on S4 to start using it. You can enhance your processes, automate things, there's so much that you can do even while you're on-prem. And if you do it correctly, if you do the switch to S4, then porting those applications over to the new system as well does not necessarily need to be a big thing. What you can do is, if you design your API layer, which will now sit on ECC, because you need to go and code that OData service there, if you create it in the same way that the APIs are created for the S4 systems, switching over is going to be really effortless. So you will still have your investment down the line as well. So absolutely, don't wait to migrate while you're on ECC, do it.
Perfect. I know that in a lot of these SAP BTP conversations and webinars, a lot of people are talking about these SAP BTP credits. Can you provide a little bit more information about what those credits actually are and how you could go about using them for some of the projects that you'd like to get started with?
Sure. I mean, I can comment first. Yeah. So essentially, there's a number of different commercial models associated with procuring BTP. Often, what we recommend for clients that are just starting to, let's say, explore the different services available in BTP, is that they take what's called a pay-as-you-go consumption-based model, where it's almost like a mobile phone. You consume and start to get a feel for how much you're going to need, and then at that point, you look at signing an agreement where there's a bit more clarity around the likely usage. So the way the credits work is sometimes you're buying an amount of rands essentially. So you might say, I've got 20,000 rand a month or a year or whatever it might be, and then that credit gets consumed depending on the service that you use. So whether you're using Build Apps or some AR service, AR Core, or interestingly enough, even some of the analytics applications like SAP Analytics Cloud are now available to essentially purchase as part of the BTP credit. So it's a little bit of a minefield. I mean, as a partner, we're getting our heads around it slowly, and even from an SAP side, things are changing quite rapidly. But essentially, the credits is an amount of rand that you then consume off.
Thank you, Andrew. I think there was a lot of questions around that, so thank you for that clarification. Yanni, there's just one last question for you. We want to know about offline applications. Can you use SAP Build Apps? Is it relevant for these offline applications?
So yes and no. So I think this basically creates a React application at the core of it. So you can then port it over so that it is something called a PWA app or a progressive web app. And that offers some offline capabilities for you if you add that on top of that. But it's still just creating a web app in this instance. So I would rather say using the libraries that is available to create native apps should your solution require it. And there are very few times where you need a proper application compared to a web application, because the maintenance on it is definitely much more extensive, developing it is much more extensive, all of those things. So if you do have a good enough reason, then you would have to do a proper development from scratch for those kinds. And even for that, there are a bunch of solutions like Flutter that can compile to both, and web. So there are a lot of solutions, but Build Apps I wouldn't recommend if you want an app.
Thank you so much for that insight. Andrew, Yanni, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you to everyone for joining us. We really hope that the demo provided you with valuable insights into how SAP BTP can address some of the challenges that you may be experiencing. Of course, as we mentioned beforehand, you will receive the presentation along with the recording. If there are any other questions, we will provide a platform to submit additional questions, so that will be available to you within the next few days. And thank you so much again. We look forward to you joining us at our next Unfiltered session. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.